The main cast of characters in Dragon Ball Super right now is the closest in terms of relevance to each other in terms of power levels that it's ever been. After the initial Tournament of Power, Ultra Instinct Goku was by far the strongest character to come out of that tournament, closely followed by Blue Evolution Vegeta. Then the likes of Golden Frieza and Android 17 and Ultimate Gohan lagged behind. However, the landscape in Universe 7 has changed dramatically. Not only is Ultra Instinct Goku not the strongest anymore, other characters such as Black Frieza, Gohan Beast, Ultra Ego Vegeta, Orange Piccolo, the legendary Super Saiyan Broly, have not only surpassed Ultra Instinct Goku from the Tournament of Power, they are now on either a level playing field with a current superhero Ultra Instinct Goku, if not surpassed him. And now we're going into a new arc. Everyone's expecting a multiversal storyline similar to that of the Tournament of Power, and what if a tournament is brought forward again and they do another final Tournament of Power? Goku's not even in the top 3 strongest in his own universe currently. We know that will change. However, what would the Universe 7 team be now? I think from the original team that won back in the initial Tournament of Power, they are getting cut. Now, I'm not saying a Tournament of Power is going to come in this next arc. However, Dragon Ball usually recycles tournaments every few arcs, and guess what? Since the Tournament of Power, there's been essentially 4 arcs. The Broly arc, the Moro arc, Granola arc, the Superhero arc. A tournament could be coming. If not this arc, then possibly after. If they go on the lines of the Tournament of Power again, which I think everybody enjoyed, who knows, maybe the other 6 universes that were previously erased by the Omni King come back and they participate as well. And then of course there's the 4 universes that didn't participate in the first Tournament of Power. Maybe they want to get involved. Maybe if you look at the Omni King's realm, the upper realm, you'll notice that the Omni King's mansion is on top of some sort of jellyfish-like creature. What if there are others like that in that great expanse of the Omni King's realm? But as of the initial Tournament of Power, the original Tournament of Power, you can only take 10 members. Universe 7 right now is stacked. Who makes the cut? Who gets cut? Well, first, we'll look at the original Tournament of Power team. And guys, I expect you to have your typing hands ready to make sure you give me your team down in the comment section. So from the original team, we've got Goku. Obviously, he is still one of the stronger characters in the universe despite being surpassed, so he would stay in. Vegeta, with his Ultra Ego, is on par with Goku, so he would also stay in. Then we've got Frieza. With his Black Frieza form, he is stronger than both Goku and Vegeta with their Ultra forms, one-shotting both of them. He would obviously be still in the Tournament of Power Universe 17. Then of course we've got Gohan. With his new Gohan Beast transformation, he surpassed a character that was considered by Toriyama to be on par with a superhero arc, Goku and Vegeta in Orange Piccolo. So Gohan Beast would make the cut, and as Piccolo was in the initial team, Piccolo would also make the cut with his new orange form. So there's 5 members right there. Now it gets a bit more difficult. The MVP, the winner of the original Tournament's Power, Android 17. Android 17 is very powerful, is an infinite model android, but, and it pains me to say this because he's one of my favourite characters in Dragon Ball Super, he's going to be on reserve for now whilst we look at a few other characters. However, the culling starts here from the initial team. Krillin, no chance. Roshi, no chance. Tien, no chance. In the original Tournament of Power, they all had something to offer, especially Master Roshi in the manga. Obviously, it was his movement lesson to Goku that allowed Goku to achieve Ultra Instinct. However, in terms of power, they are vastly outmatched, and with new characters that have come onto the scene, which we'll get into in a moment, they simply are just completely outmatched by these characters. Whereas before, the other characters that were in consideration had weaknesses that allowed their skill sets to compensate for. That's just not the case anymore. So those 3 are gone. Android 18. This is a difficult one. She is powerful. She's much more powerful than the 3 which is called. However, she's not as powerful as Android 17. And while she is an infinite model android, which is particularly useful in a battle of attrition, she hasn't really shown any strategic depth like Android 17 showed in the original Tournaments of Power. So I'm afraid Android 18 also doesn't make the cut. So currently we have 5 characters from the initial Tournament of Power team, 1 on reserve in Android 17. Let's start going through the arcs now and the characters introduced in those arcs and talk about whether they could make the cut. So obviously first comes up is the Broly movie. The legendary Super Saiyan Broly, even if you don't believe all the consistent franchise sources, putting Broly at Blue Fusion level and Blue Fusion being at Beerus' level, who we know is still stronger than Frieza as per the Jump article magazine, would still therefore be stronger than Frieza. Obviously, some people don't believe that's the case anymore. They believe all the sources surrounding the superhero movie when referring to Broly are talking about a current Broly, a hypothetical legendary Super Saiyan Broly from the superhero arc. That's fine. This tournament of power, the final tournament of power, is based on a current group of these characters, so Broly would still make the cut. Broly is stronger than Goku and Vegeta according to multiple different sources. However, what you would have to consider when picking your team is Broly is like a loose cannon. He could end up just like Kale in the original tournament's power and start attacking his own teammates. Is it worth it? Let me know down in the comment section. Now onto the Moro arc. Of course, we're going to start early Moro arc. Other than Moro, we have Majin Buu, who showed that he's powered up when the Daikaio Shin appeared. That version could potentially appear in the tournament's power unless the Grand Priest blocked it because he technically has a god within him. However, based on Majin Buu's powers alone, his magic, his healing ability, his regeneration is insane. His raw power level isn't up to the standard of the ones we've mentioned so far, so I'm going to put him in reserves just like Android 17. Now, Moro obviously is dead, so we're going to have to talk about a couple of conditions here. Obviously, with the original tournament's power, they did get Frieza back from the dead, back from hell, and brought him back in order to participate in the tournament's power. Now, let me know down in the comment section if you think that should be allowed for this tournament, because obviously that opens a few doors for certain characters. However, I'm going to bring him in based on the fact that he would still be one of the strongest, and not only would he still be one of the strongest, whilst not at current Goku and Vegeta levels, he is certainly stronger than Android 17, who's in reserve right now, and he comes with a plethora of abilities. His absorption ability would be wild in the tournaments of power, along with a host of magic abilities, as well as his ability to copy people once he'd eaten 7 free. Now, of course, there's multiple different versions of Moro. Which version would I go for? Well, Planet Moro might be a bit impossible in the tournament of power unless, he merges with the stage itself. I guess that could be useful, but I think once his weakness has been found out with the amount of participants there, I think that would be an easy target for the numerous amount of opponents. So I would go for Angel Moro, as he has Ultra Instinct as well. Of course, you could argue that he would swell up and eventually lose himself because he can't handle the power, so you may actually opt for Moro 7-3, even though he's less powerful, he's a more stable version that maintains his copy ability. So for me, Moro gets revived and makes the cut. That means we've got 7. That is Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, Frieza, Broly, Moro, and we currently have Android 17 in reserve, alongside Majin Buu. However, here's a curveball. What about Beerus? Beerus is no longer an angel. He is a mortal now after his exploits in the Moro arc. Has he retained the power he had when he was an angel? That's the question. Now, he is brought up when Whis mentions the ladder of Ultra Instinct to Goku at the beginning of the Granola arc, and that implies that Beerus still has his level of UI, or Ultra Instinct. So what we're going to do is we'll come back to that one at the end. The Granola arc. Of course, Goku and Vegeta are big players in this arc, but they face off against Granola, who wishes to be the strongest in the universe. Now, you could argue that Granola technically only had 3 months, possibly less, left after the events of the Granola arc. He could be dead as of superhero. Would he need reviving? That would be a second revive. Or maybe he's still alive. There are multiple sets of Dragon Balls. Maybe you could use multiple revives. This would be a final tournament of power where everything would be on the line. So why wouldn't you use every resource at your disposal? There's the Namekian Dragon Balls, the Earth Dragon Balls, the Cerealian Dragon Balls, maybe even the Super Dragon Balls. So we've got Granola. He has a wild set of abilities. His sniper abilities are really useful and handy. He's actually quite smart in battle. He would be a really useful team member to have in a team of 10, especially if they learned how to work together. So I say Granola would make the cut. So we have 8 members. Now, of course, there's Gas as well. He is definitely dead. So guys, at the end of this, I'm going to do a version of if I'm only allowed to use 1 revival. But at the moment, I potentially use 2, depending on Granola's life status as of the superhero arc. Gas obviously is even stronger than Granola. He has all the abilities of Granola because he made the wish afterwards to become the strongest in the universe. He gained all the abilities that the others have, and he is simply going to make the cut. And once Gas is able to use an array of techniques like his weapon creation, which is pretty useful and could come in handy in a tournament of power style battle. Now that's 9 members, and we have Android 17 in reserve, and we've not even got to the superhero arc yet. Of course, Gohan and Piccolo already made the cut. There are the 2 Gamma androids who are both stronger than Android 17. Android 17 is an infinite model android, which I think is incredibly useful and we know is incredibly strategic. Probably on the team right now, the most strategic in terms of strategic prowess. However, Gamma 1 does learn whilst he fights and improves as he fights, and he is stronger. So this is a hard question. Do you go for intelligence or do you go for sheer power? We've already got a lot of power on the team. Guys, I'm making a controversial call here. I'm keeping Android 17 in reserve for the moment. If I'm only allowed to make 1 revival, then maybe Gamma 1 could come back in. We'll see. Then throughout the rest of that arc, we see Goten and Trunks. Goten and Trunks didn't make the original Tournaments of Power because whilst they had more raw power than the likes of Roshi, Tien and Krillin, they don't have the battle maturity to take part in a battle like a tournament where it's all about finding a way to eliminate your opponents. They would resort to childish antics, which we saw against Cell Max, and I think it would be the same case here. Even so, they're not even on the level of power that most of these characters are as well, which is a risk considering they often get the fusion wrong. Then of course it brings us to Cell Max. Cell Max, if he was completed, would be the strongest character on this list. However, he has not been completed, he is mindless, and as we saw in the superhero arc, he easily gets popped off on by weaker characters because he literally cannot control his power. Sure, he does get better the longer he fights, but he doesn't even know the array of powers he has. He is brainless. If, for example, they found some way to infuse the original Cell's personality into him, then I think he'd be one of the first named on the team sheet. However, that's not the case as far as we know. So Cell Max does not make the cut because he would be an easy target essentially. So my team currently: Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, Frieza, Broly, Moro, Granola, Gas, and then I need to pick one from one of the reserves. The reserve I'm going to go for Android 17 because of his strategic prowess. His ability to have infinite energy as well is also useful. If he doesn't get too involved or take any unnecessary risks, then by the latter stages of the Tournament's power, he will still be at a high power level, whereas everybody else would have tied by that point. That is why he was particularly useful in the original Tournament's power. Of course, a superhero arc, Android 17 will be a lot stronger as well. That means I've not brought Gamma into the fray. If Beerus is allowed to enter the Tournament's power, I would pick Beerus over Android 17. And in terms of Majin Buu, he could fall asleep and it would be too risky. Now there is one more name that I've left out. What about Oob? Is that why Goku's going to train Oob? Is there a tournament coming up at the end of Z and Goku thinks he needs to train Oob for that next tournament? So would this team be able to compete with a powered up Universe 11 with Jiren and the Pride Troopers? Or maybe Universe 6 with their Saiyans? They have a legendary Super Saiyan themselves, as well as the legendary Assassin Hit. Or what about any of the other universes that we've not touched upon? What's crazy is even though I made a strategic call with Android 17, the ones that didn't make the cut, the likes of Gamma 1, Beerus, Majin Buu, Goten and Trunks, Oob, Android 7-3 is still in existence. Then of course you could consider a resurrected Cell Max and Sagambo. Whilst these don't make my initial team, this is the Universe 7 reserves. The majority of them would walk into the initial Tournament of Power team. There's Android 18 as well. In fact, that team could probably win the original Tournament of Power itself. Anyway guys, maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you would have some of them in your final Tournament of Power team. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I want to see your teams. Make sure you talk about the reasons why you picked them as well. I'm looking forward to reading them all. Until next time, Ad Astra.